Whoa, hold up. Did you watch part 1? Okay, cool, just checking, because we don't like having to do things out of order around here. I'll link part 1 just in case, right here, okay? Now you sure you watched? You watched part 1. Okay, you could continue. What is this intro?
Now we are going to cover wheelies. Again, like I said earlier, wheelies are better to do than not doing. Why? Well, here I am going 84. This is my top speed without a wheelie. Here's my top speed with one. It's going up. Now I didn't get the top speed because the top bikes have poor acceleration. So you rely on mini turbos to maintain top wheelie speed, and then you chain your wheelies to maintain top wheelie speed on long straightaways. Chaining wheelies is probably one of the most annoying parts of time trials, and honestly, you don't even need it to succeed online. However, it does have some significance. It's just not as important as delayed drifting and chain drifting. So, here I am at a full speed wheelie of 97. This is Funky Kong's top wheelie speed. After a couple of swishes, I think 5 or so, I'm going to want to hit the D-pad up button again and do another wheelie. And if I time it right, I won't lose as much speed. Now we consider a drop when you go below 90. When I went to 91, we consider that a half chain. I lost about half of my speed as I would. It's basically the middle ground between a drop and a full chain wheelie. It drops where that was a full chain wheelie. I went down to only 94, and then I go back up to 97. Full chain wheelies are a one-frame technique. You only have one frame to do it. A bad drop is about 88. It can be worse. Some people, because of a micro bounce or something, will drop all the way down to 84. That is the worst drop you can get, because you're all the way back down to normal top speed. So that's chain wheelies. Now, because chain wheelies are so important, because the top vehicles have such poor acceleration, what can you do about it? Well, there's quite a few things you can do about it. Remember when I said you don't want to get your startup boost immediately? Chain wheelies have to do with that. Depending on the straightaway you're at, if you delay your wheelie, you delay when you have to chain your wheelie. If the straightaway is short enough, you may not have to chain your wheelie at all. That is why delaying your startup wheelie can save you, at least in time trials. And I guess online it can save you too, because you won't get wheelie bumps. Now there is another way to mitigate chain wheelies, and that is holding your mini turbo a bit longer, but wheeling immediately. Try not to do that though. It is kind of slow. Judge the turn. If you think you have to hold your drift for a bit, do it, and then get an instant wheelie. Here's another thing you can do to mitigate having to chain your wheelies. If you are in any kind of boost, whether it be a mushroom, a boost panel, a trick boost, you can hop right before your boost is about to end, then start another wheelie. If you do that, then you mitigate having to chain again, or you increase the amount of time before you have to chain again. All these little details that aren't really covered. But yeah, let's use these boost panels. If I hop right before my boost panel boost ends, then I don't have to chain my wheelie as soon. It's very useful for time trials. You can also be pretty fast with it online too. The gist is you're prolonging the time before you need to chain your wheelie again. So yeah, that is chain wheelies. Now, I'm going to talk about the instant wheelie again and the delayed wheelie, but more in depth. I want to cover the difference between releasing a wheelie before a mini turbo is about to end and releasing a wheelie right after you get a mini turbo. Here's what it looks like if you wait to wheelie. You're still going at 97, but you're not going 113 very long. Now, sometimes this is good for alignment. Sometimes this is way safer for online. You gotta be the judge of where you want to use this. The N64 Bowser's Castle Bridge at the very beginning. If you wheelie later, you can reduce the chance of bouncing. So delayed wheelies do have their utility, but they aren't a general rule. you shouldn't always do it. Now I'm going to cover instant wheelies and why they are the best. An instant wheelie looks like this. When you do an instant wheelie, the sound that your character makes when you do a mini turbo is not there. Just the wheelie noise is there. The wheelie voice clip is all you should be hearing. Anyway, there are a couple different ways of doing instant wheelies. You have that, where your bike just kind of lifts up, kind of eases itself into the turn. A lot of tracks driving like this is fine, but if you want an even better angle out of your instant wheelie, you can do the mid-mini turbo wheelie turn. What I'm doing here is I'm not wheelie turning at all. I'm just immediately wheeling after my drift, and it's just kind of guiding itself. But if you add a wheelie turn during your mini turbo, you can be in any kind of boost and you can wheelie turn. But as soon as you're not in a boost, you can't wheelie turn. So with a mid-mini turbo wheelie turn, it looks like this. You see that weird kind of animation he did with his elbows? It means he's really trying hard to turn the bike. This is a pretty advanced technique because you really need to, I guess, find your footing with it. Anyways, that is the best way of handling turns in this game. You are going to stay at 113 for a lot longer, and depending on the straightaway, if the straightaway is short, just release the mini turbo right away. If it's a bit longer and you want to negate having to chain, delay the mini turbo a little bit, that's fine. But that is the best way to take a turn in this game. That is how to properly turn. Now, remember when I talked about delayed drifting? Delayed drifting makes it even easier to pull this off, because delayed drifting helps with your alignment. So, all these techniques kind of come together, and you string them together on the track. Now, I'm going to go back to ramps. The easiest way to save time when tricking on ramps is by delaying your trick. You have about 23 frames to delay your trick. Some shortcuts require an instant trick because an instant trick will give you more airtime. Delaying your trick gives you less airtime. That's why it's faster. The general rule is to have less airtime when in a trick. Okay, so here is an instant trick. That's how much airtime I got. Also, an instant trick gives you less forward momentum than a delayed trick, especially for ramps that are facing, well, forward. Now, if I do a delayed trick, there's less airtime, there's more forward momentum. See how I waited? That is what you want to do with your tricks. Now, the next trick technique is the hop low trick. I covered already that side tricks are pretty good for low tricking, but there's different kinds of low tricks out there. Some of these ramps are a little bit different on when you time the hop, but it's generally the same principle. But you get the idea. You hop and then trick immediately, and it's a very low trick. There are other low tricks. These other low tricks are where you hop onto the edge of the ramp, then trick. That is how the Bowser's Castle beginning ramp low trick works. So this ramp, if I hop on the end of it and then trick, it's lower. So let's go back and do it without hopping. It's a bit higher, isn't it? If I hop, it's lower. That was definitely lower, you could tell. So that's how the Bowser's Castle first ramp works. But the first ramp, and also the last ramp, can work in a different way. I present to you the ramp drift. Now in the past, only carts would do ramp drifting because it would help their alignment when leaving ramps. And it would also help them build a mini turbo quicker when landing from ramps. But now bikes are starting to do ramp drifts. It's a good way to realign yourself, and it's a good way to get low tricks. You do the exact same thing. You hop onto the ramp, but instead of just hopping onto the ramp and tricking, you're holding a drift to one direction and tricking, and still holding the drift the entire time. Like this. Now, that wasn't as low as my other trick because I hopped at a pretty poor time, but that is a hop trick. You're hopping onto the edge of the ramp, and then you are drifting. Hop tricks also, for whatever reason, I guess it's because of the angle you land, ramp drifts also make it easier to mitigate bounces. So yeah, that's the ramp drifts. I'll go to another track where this is used. Alright. There you go. There's a ramp drift again. When your bike is going at an angle, it allows you to just get less airtime. But yeah, there you go. Ramp drifting. Next, I will cover, there are some ramps, like the Bowser's Castle ramp, but their low tricks function a bit differently. You don't hop onto the ramp, you actually do something similar to a GBA low trick. What you do is when you're on the boost panel, you're gonna just hop. And it allows your bike to go a little bit lower when landing. This is used on DS Delfino Square on the dock. What I was talking about with the Delfino Square thing, that kind of low trick, this is a hop trick where you're hopping and tricking on the ramp to get that lower airtime. It's a form of a hop trick, but that's for flip trick ramps. The most used form of hop trick is for a stage 1 trick. The stage 1 trick is what you get on the Bowser Castle 3 ramps, and it's that really slow, kind of crappy trick. It's this. But you're using a hop with it to get more airtime to go further. So you're hitting the R button, or the drift button, and the D-pad at the same time. Sometimes you may not get an up trick. You might get a trick that you don't want. In most hop tricks, you do want an up trick, so make sure you get one. Side tricks might kill you. Actually, usually side tricks will kill you if you get a side trick with a hop trick. So, that is a hop trick. Hop tricks have a few different uses. The use I just showed you right there. There's other ones. Doing hop tricks on wavy areas, which is the original intended use for them. That was the intuitive use for them until more techniques were discovered for hop tricks. And also get lower tricks. So the Bowser's Castle hallway at the beginning in the Rainbow Road wavy area. That's where you want to use hop tricks. Like, as a new player, start using them there. When you're comfortable with using them there, start using them in places where if you want to go over gaps. I'll do one more hop trick here, and then I'll go to another track where a hop trick is very important. Using a wheelie before a hop trick will give you more distance, by the way. Remember that. Now I'm going to go to Autumn Leaves Way. There's a hop trick shortcut here. So the shortcut on this track cannot be made by just shrooming lates. You can't make it just with a mushroom. You have to get more air. So how do you do that? With a hop trick. There's an example of a... Oh yeah, hops before logs will help you get lower airtime on logs. It's not a hop trick, but it's still a way of getting lower airtime. So here I am. I'm doing a normal trick with a mushroom. And as you can see, I barely make it. So how do you guarantee to make it? And there's a hop trick. Much more airtime. Here's another example of where you can use a hop trick. You can go further here rather than dying. Here's an example of drifting onto a ramp and using a drift trick, low trick, and a delay trick. This track is a very good showcase for different trick techniques. I recommend playing this one in time trials to get a feel for different kinds of tricks. However, this track does not have spindrift hop tricks, which are honestly the worst technique in this game. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. You have to claw to do them. You cannot do them without clawing. Unless you're crazy. I will cover those next. So I showed you how the hop trick worked and what it does. Now I'm going to show you what the spindrift hop trick works. Where is Help Pyramid? There it is. To cut the last turn tight, you do a spindrift hop trick on this ramp. Another thing about tricks. Some ramps just give you way too much height, and it's better to just wheelie off them and then go on to the ramp that gives you less height and trick on that. So if you have two ramps, and if tricking on it is going to give you a boost, and then you have a boost immediately after, there's no point. Just wheelie off the ramp and then go onto the boost panel. You're getting extra airtime for no reason, and you're wasting your trick boost. So here's a spindrift hop trick. So you saw the vehicle kind of turn in midair, and it allows you to do some really crazy maneuvers, such as taking this turn pretty damn tight. I can't really explain how it's done, really. It's just you're doing a hop trick at the same time you're doing a spindrift. So there's one example of a spindrift hop trick. It lines the bike up perfectly for this turn. So there's one example of a spindrift hop trick. I will try to do the spindrift hop trick on Nightlife Party. This track has a few different examples of trick mechanics. Here you have the ramp drift. Here is a spindrift hop trick to get that extra height on that shortcut. Here's another ramp drift. Here's a hop trick, but I missed it. It's supposed to be a hop trick. Here's an example of a ramp you don't want to go off of. Some ramps you can literally just drift off of, and you can use them to go over gaps. There's not many custom tracks where that's a thing, but this is one of them. But yeah, you can use that and just do that. It's been a while since I did this trick, so pardon me if I forget. There you go. There's another spindrift hop trick for you. I'm gonna try the wheelie method now. So yeah, that's the wheelie method. It's not as consistent. Yeah, but you kind of get the idea.
And that is where I'll call it for part 2. I originally wanted to keep this as a part 1 and a part 2 project, but there's a lot more footage than I anticipated, so we are going to have a part 3. Anyway, subscribe, comment, like, all that fun stuff. And I will see you... Actually, no. Andy will see you later. Happy racing.